It's a bit like pouring doubles with your whiskey or your gin. There's always the temptation to be just a little bit more generous. Well, you mean a little bit, but not much, because it always leads to trouble, doesn't it? So how can you tell if your plant needs a feed? You'll notice that your plants in containers, whether they're in a greenhouse or outdoors in the garden, will start to run out of steam in sort of June, July. They've exhausted the food in the compost. The leaves will become a bit more pale, and also the flowers will start to ease off. They'll become smaller and fewer in number. And you know then that what they need is a darn good meal. So what do you feed them with? Well, at the start of the season, when you're preparing the soil, Soil Improver really improves the moisture holding capacity and the fertility of your soil. Do that at planting time or just before. And in terms of fertilizers at that time, good old blood-bone fish meal, an organic feed, which contains nitrogen for leaf and shoot growth, phosphates for root growth, and potash for flowers and fruit. It's an all-round good square meal, but that goes in February, March, April, just before you're planting or at planting time, to give them a really good start in life. You know that feeling you get when you're several hours from having had a meal and your tummy starts to rumble and you think, oh crumbs, I really could do with a good square meal now. That's how your plants are feeling, particularly in containers where the soil supply is limited by the outside of the container. And from about May onwards, all container grown plants can be given a dilute liquid feed once a week if you're generous, and certainly once a fortnight, right the way through the year when they're actively growing. When you see the shelves in the garden centre, oh my goodness, it's like looking at a supermarket. More kinds of liquid feed than you can shake a trowel at. I like to go for an organic feed because I'm an organic gardener. Organic feeds feed soil bacteria, which is vital to keep a healthy garden. And that would always be the choice for me. You can get ones which are more suited to tomatoes and fruiting plants because they're higher in potash, which encourages flowers and fruiting. Choose one which suits your purpose, or a general one, and one something like this one based on seaweed. Seaweed is full of lots of trace elements aside from those main three, nitrogen, phosphates and potash. It has things like magnesium, molybdenum, boron in it as well. All little trace elements, little vitamins if you like, that plants really appreciate. You can of course make your own. Oh, there are all kinds of muck and magic recipes, but one old one is nettle tea. If you cut nettles, I've got a basket full of them here, nettles and that other old stalwart when it comes to making homegrown liquid feed, which is comfrey. Now comfrey has these large leaves. You get this in your garden, you'll have a devil of a job getting rid of it. It's a rampant spreader. Comfrey and stinging nettles like these, you can make these into comfrey tea or nettle tea. The way to do it, chop them all up, get yourself a bucket of water, and then the nettles go into the bucket. The more you chop them up, the more of the sap you're releasing, pushing them down under the water, and really make a good, dense, thick mix of nettles. The more you bash them up, the more sap you'll release and the more power you'll give to the nettle tea. We used to make something called blackjack in parks. You know, we lived just below the moors and they used to gather sheep droppings, put them in a piece of hessian, an old sack, drop them into a vat of water, and you'd leave that there and dilute that and feed your plants. Cool. Didn't half pong, and when you've finished with this, having weighed it down with a brick and kept it for about 3 or 4 weeks, you can then decant it into bottles. And you know, with medicine, you know, the worse it tastes, the more good it's doing you. Nettle tea is quite aromatic. They reckon you should dilute it at the rate of 1 in 10 of water. It's not science though, is it really? So if you want to know exactly what you're applying, then stick with a bottled liquid feed, organic, or experiment a bit, comfrey and nettles, but might need a face mask. The first thing to do is to check that the compost in the pot is moist. I watered this about an hour ago, so I know it is. That way the liquid feed can go straight into action rather than scorching the roots. If the soil is dry, the plant is already under stress. It's thinking, where's the water coming from? So when it's nice and damp, that's when you can feed it. Plants like roses are really greedy. This is a brand new rose called the King's Rose, named after the King, King Charles III, with these wonderful striped flowers. It looks like Rosamundi, the old rose, Rosa gallica versicolor, but the thing about Rosamundi is it has one brief flowering season at the end of June, beginning of July. This one, being a modern shrub rose, flowers right the way through summer. You can see all these buds yet to come. But that also means that it will be greedy, it will be hungry. It's 2 capfuls to a canful. It's a bit like pouring doubles with your whiskey or your gin. There's always the temptation to be just a little bit more generous. Well, you mean a little bit, but not much, because it always leads to trouble, doesn't it? That's mixed in there, actually. I don't even need to stir it. And then a really good watering. And this is where you see why it's important to leave a gap between the surface of the compost and the rim of the pot. Because if I hadn't done that, and I couldn't fill it right up like that, look at the bubbles coming out, I wouldn't have been able to give it enough feed. And with a pot like this, where there's about that much gap between the rim and the surface of the compost, that will be enough. As I said, 1 inch of water will travel downwards 9 inches. So that already damp compost has now been soaked with dilute liquid feed. And if you listen very carefully, you'll hear the plant saying, thank you. But the reward that you get for being kind to your plants by making sure they don't go short of water in containers, and they don't go short of food by feeding them once a week or once a fortnight, and they will repay you with healthy foliage, lustrous green growth, and lots of flowers right the way through until the frosts. You'll enjoy that, won't you? Gardening has changed my life, so let me show you how it can change yours. I'll be posting new videos every week, so subscribe and let's get gardening together.